wasn't a very good show, but I mean, considering what we did, it worked rather well, and we did learn all sorts of skills. And in one of them was a mailbag skill. Well, this actor, he wasn't very good. He now runs the Bush Theatre, and he was not very physically very adept. I mean, he had great. I mean, I used to admire him because he kept at it. He couldn't. We used to have, a wooden horse, try and jump over and do tumbling and stuff like that. And every time he ran up to it, he just hit the horse and knocked the horse over. He couldn't get over it. But he'd carry on trying to do it. Now he's a highly respected director of the Bush Theatre in London. Anyway, he was doing an escapology act that someone had taught him. So they put him in a mailbag, they chained him up, handcuffed him, put him in a mailbag, and then we dumped him in the pool. And that's what we did. This was the most physically inept actor there was around. And we dumped him in the pool. In rehearsals, he'd always come out. So they were all standing around, and we made it rather dramatic because we had burning torches like this, and he was in this pool. It looked great, over the reflection in the pool. We flung this poor man in, and he didn't come out. And we started to panic. We really did. We were standing there, and suddenly thought, and then we started to take our clothes, and people were going to start to dive in, and then suddenly, just at the right dramatic moment, he came out to thunderous applause from everybody because the audience were convinced he was dying as well. And then he came out, it was wonderful. So we were doing things like that, and we did this for a summer, and then we left. And if you ever go to this place, you can still see the dent in the cricket pitch. Cricket has never been the same in that time since we left. But having left that circus, we had now acquired certain skills, and it was from that I discussed with Ken Campbell what we should do next, and I suggested we did a show about a stunt man, and I being the smallest, I was very skinny and small, and I'm still small, not so skinny, but anyway, I suggested I did a stunt man. And so Ken and I came up with this idea, and if you imagine the Marx Brothers, the three of them doing a stunt show, it was a bit like that, because Ken's writing was very witty, and kind of the actual verbal side of it was and visual side was very, very funny. And I, the little one, I did everything. I used to bang a nail up my nose. I used to set that to my head. I used to explode a bomb in my chest. I used to lie on a bed of nails and have a brick on my chest, and then a walnut on the brick, and we called that Harvey McWallbagger's patented nutcracker. And someone would come on with a big and smash the walnut. That was how you smash a walnut on my chest. And then I used to mentally combust cotton wool, which was stare at a piece of cotton wool set cross-eyed for about 15 minutes, and suddenly it burst into flame. We did this whole thing all the time. And another thing I used to do was throw up potatoes into the air and smash them into 1,000 pieces. But that was good fun, because what we used to do was, I'll tell you the secret of this, we used to have a bag of spuds, and I was challenged if I could smash a potato into 1,000 pieces. I said, I'll do that. And so we poured the spuds onto the stage, but hidden underneath was a spud already prepared, you see. So it was prepared. So, and then I would get the spuds and throw them out to the audience, and then we get the audience to throw them up and try and nut them into 1,000 pieces, which is great fun, standing on the stage watching an audience go, I'm missing it. That's it, they were trying to do it, and then I would triumphantly pick up the sausage that was actually fixed, and I would throw it out into the air and go, boom, and it smashed into 1,000 pieces. People were mightily impressed by it. I was marvelous. All it was because the potatoes, kind of glutinous when you cut them, they kind of still stick together. So we used to slice them up into little, tiny, but you could actually pick it up, you could throw it up, just by going, bang, like that, 1,000 pieces. So I did all of these stunts. I mean, we had a guillotine built, not one that was a showbiz guillotine, but we had it built like a real guillotine, it looked real. And then I used to have to put my head in there, have my head chopped off. Various stunts. And that's how I became known as, and that's where I got the name from. We called the character Sylvester McCoy, the human bomb. That's where the human bomb came from, because we used to take the audience out, and I'd lie on my back, bare-chested, and stick a banger in a box on my chest, and explode it. The fun of it was taking the audience out. People, in those days, you see, it was very revolutionary what we were doing, because people would come to the theatre, and that's what they expected, to sit in the theatre and see the show. But halfway through it, we would take them all out, and we'd march them out, we'd dress up in our uniforms and we'd get them to hold hands and take them across the street. We'd stop the traffic. Some would dress up as policemen. We'd take them to a car park and I would lie down. I'd blow some fire if they were, and I'd set light to my head. And, I'd, explode a bomb in my chest. And then we'd go back and have some tea. But I mean, the setting light to my head was, there was this funnel, you see, we put this funnel over my head. And we had, flames, and then it'd stick, and flames would come out of the funnel. It was another trick, as you know. I wouldn't be here yet, but really set light to my head. No, I've no head. In the funnel, there was a kind of a flap. So you'd show the audience the funnel like that, and they'd see right down it. And they'd see there was nothing there, but there was a hidden flap with some cotton wool on it soaked in paraffin. And so when you put it on, the flap would go down like that. And so there was a cotton wool with paraffin that would go on flame. But all you see is this flaming funnel on top of my head. But one night we did it, and the guy who was supposed to be doing it got a bit drunk, and he forgot to put the flap down. So I actually did set light to my head. That was the last time he ever did that, I can tell you. But I used to have a little goatee beard, here, like a moustache and this little goatee beard, like an American cowboy, And but what happened was I ended up having the most amazing beard, which now are quite common. People, kind of have little, bits of hair on their face that they can really control. In those days, that was more difficult. And I discovered the way to do it was I ended up with a square or an oblong piece of hair like that, with naked flesh in the middle and that. And the reason for that was when I blew fire. I used to do that when I first started doing it. I set fire to the beard. And I actually done that. I was very proud of that little thing. Anyway, so that's how I became Sylvester McCoy. Because when we went to London, we played the Royal Court, which is a very important theatre in those days, still is. And we were upstairs at the Royal Court, and Ken Campbell said, "Look, really good." He said, "Really good. If you could, we could pretend, that your name was Sylvester McCoy, in the programme." And I said, "Oh, all right," because I'd only just been an actor for, about a year with Ken, and I called myself Kent Smith. But I thought Kent Smith was too much of a matinee idol type of name, square jaw. Kent Smith, my name, kind of anyone pretends type of actor. And I obviously was not developing into that kind of actor. I was developing into some sort of other mad kind of thing. So Sylvester McCoy seemed a really good name. So I said, yeah, I'll do that. So we called Sylvester McCoy, played by Sylvester McCoy. And then in the blurb about the Sylvester McCoy, we invented this thing. He left the Noonan Grammar School at the age of 15, went to India, and kind of learned from the gurus in India how to set fire to his head and do all these things and stuff. How to bang a nail up his nose, how to stick a ferret down his trousers. I mean, the ferrets down the trousers, that started because Ken Campbell used to keep ferrets as a pet.